Okay, we will call to order the Oak Island Town Council public hearings and regular meeting of June 10th, 2014. The council will enter into its invocation led by Councilor Loman Scott, and then we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are honored to take this brief moment to thank you for all of the gifts and everything that you do for us. We would also like to ask that you watch over our meeting and help us make the decisions that we need to make. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Scott. First item for the night is a public hearing to receive comments on the proposed fiscal year 2014-2015 budget. We have two people who have signed up to speak. First is Richard Bunce.
Whole two people, huh?
A whole two. Yeah. Hey, you've got company tonight. Usually it's just you.
Richard L. Bunce, 125 Northeast 26th Street. For the third straight year, this council majority will approve the confiscation of roughly $30 million from the residents and property owners in the town of Oak Island. The fiscal year 2013 budget was the first roughly $30 million budget passed by this council majority, and the audit for that budget year is not yet completed. It will be interesting to see how the actual expenditures for that year measure up against the roughly $26 million actually spent in the last budget of the previous council majority and the campaign promises from this council majority as candidates for a smaller, fiscally conservative town government. This will be the third straight year when the approved budget for the next year is substantially complete before the audit of for the previous year is completed, and raises the question as to how valid the previous budget information that the staff and council used in completing the budget about to be approved. This will also be the second year of the planned 3-year 11.75% across-the-board utility rate increases. Why across-the-board increases in water fees when the shortfall is in wastewater expense coverage? Perhaps it is that the water revenue estimates exceed water expenses by $1.6 million, and it just so happens that there is then a $1.5 million in the utility unappropriated fund balance to finance the new wastewater system debt service under the guise of assessment revenue. As our second water meter utility customers paying for new wastewater system debt, there also appears to be a missing payment back to the general fund for the $3.5 million borrowed from the general fund in this year's approved budget to cover the revenue bond rate covenant tests. For the third straight year, there is no proposal for a new utility rate structure, despite the many flaws in the current rate, including the lowest flow customers subsidizing mid-flow customers, also known as voters. The staff cannot produce reliable monthly customer water flow numbers. Let me say that again. The staff cannot produce reliable monthly customer flow numbers. What really baffles me is why council does not care the staff cannot do this. This is by far the most consequential metric in our roughly $16 million utility enterprise and overall town budget. As a result of this, the staff cannot determine the revenue generated by any rate structure, and so once again just proposes an across-the-board increase in all rates and fees without any rationale other than for a total utility revenue increase, and then hopes that as the total water flow changes, the mix of individual customer flows that actually determine utility revenue will not lead to significant utility budget shortfalls. It is also not credible that staff is able to manage 3 sewer districts' sewer treatment fees, develop tax parcels in the utility service area, undeveloped tax parcels in the utility service area, and tax parcels outside the utility service area, yet just cannot add a 4th district rate for tax parcels in the old wastewater system service area, whose owners have already paid the debt service for their system. It does make a convenient, if poor, excuse for council to take no action on changing the rate structure, though. Town employees went out again over town taxpayers and the smaller fiscally conservative government campaign promises with council choosing the largest annual O&M and capital expense option for vegetation collection that will again utilize town-owned sucker trucks sucking sand through their impellers, producing predictable maintenance issues. Employee jobs are safe, though. Whew. I'm not sure how many of Mr. Middleton's working men and their families are left in the Oceanside community he envisioned for them 60 years ago. Property ownership costs are increasing each year, including those under control of this council. It is growing too late to reverse this trend, and the island of Oak Island is destined to become just another exclusive Oceanside resort for the rich and famous. That is sad for what it means to the longtime island families attracted by Mr. Middleton's vision and for how unnecessary it will all have been. I, for one, liked it better for what it was than for what it is inescapably becoming. I have other good options. Many will not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonds. Next is Mary Brewer.
Mary Brewer, 3524 East Pelican Drive. I think this falls under budget. If not, you can tell me. Since it costs money, I would like to say I appreciated the volunteer picnic. It's the nicest one we've had. I'm just sorry more of the volunteers didn't show up. I'm going to say the same thing I said last year about budget. Your budget drop won't make much difference in my bill. And I managed to pay it last year, and I'll pay it this year. And I think there's better places to put that money, such as in the rec department, which you have cut past the bare bones. And it's affecting programs. It's affecting an awful lot of stuff. I'm not on the internet, but I understand that there have been comments from visitors about the lack of availability of rec things. I don't know that for true. It's a shame that someone who has been with us 25 years, and for 24 of those has gotten excellent evaluations, now doesn't. I just think the budget. Oh, and whoever it is that thinks that giving money to the Feral Cat Society will increase the number of cats, I'd like to talk to you, because that's exactly opposite what it does. And we have less feral cats now than we used to. And if no other reason than I've been feeding one for 5 years.
Thank you, Ms. Brewer. That's all that's signed to speak up on the 2014-15 budget goals. Anybody else that would like to speak, please? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Scott. All those, do I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Councilor Kaiser. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. And we will be discussing that later on in the agenda under new business. Usually we take public hearing action. Second public hearing this evening is for the received citizen comments on a proposal to modify the planned unit development for the preserve. We have no one that has signed up to speak at this public hearing. If anyone wishes to speak, please. Oh, you signed up on general comments. Okay.
My name's Don Fowler. I live at 2405 Marsh Grove Lane at the Preserve. I've been there for 5 years, more or less, my wife and I. My comment, could I approach y'all? I promise I'm not going to do anything. I just haven't. And this is not not a bribe or nothing.
As long as you do it with full respect.
This is just some pictures in case you're not familiar. And I forgot how many there were.
5 council members.
You can just pass that along.
No.
I don't need them back.
Okay.
I have some concerns on the proposal of what they want to do at the preserve. All for seeing Beirut building down. That building was going to have 51 units on 4 floors. That particular side of the road, they're proposing to put 24 units in that same area, basically, a little bit more area, and that includes roads and driveways. I just think it's to put 45 by 45 lots, that many lots in that area, and 5 of them, these pictures concern the end of the pond. 5 little houses along that end of the pond. I just don't really see where they can put a road, driveways into the units, and the units in that end of the pond. That's my main concern there. We'll lose our walkway around the pond, and that's been a nice little walkway. My other concern is the drawings that we have, they don't show any parking for the clubhouse and the pool area. Where our parking is now is going to be turned into lots. So I don't know how we're going to, where you're supposed to park to go to the clubhouse. Those are my main concerns. I think I'm all for the part across the street. I just think they need less of those little shanties or whatever on where Building 5 is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flower. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this public hearing? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to close. Pardon?
I have submitted comments.
Thank you.
Just one sec. This comes from Lena Jane Gray. I am writing to the Oak Island Town Council to request that the permit for the demolition of Building 5 and building cottage-type homes on the lots of 5 and 6 at the preserve be delayed at this time. Many members of the HOA that have not seen the proposed plan of these cottage-type homes that includes destroying landscaping and trees on the right side of the airport road, driving into the preserve, as well as the removal of a section of the boardwalk around the pond, which is common area property to accommodate 4 to 5 homes. The landscaping of concern was added last year at a cost of approximately $50,000 to the HOA, and the HOA has incurred the cost of maintaining the property for several years and the boardwalk around the pond since inception. Demolition of Building 5 should take place by a separate permit from the conditional use permit for the building of the cottage-type homes. The placement of the 4 to 5 cottage-type homes on the land between the pond and the airport road will destroy the beauty of the drive into the preserve with the landscaping trees and a view of the pond that has cost tens of thousands to the HOA.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to close public hearing, please.
Madam Mayor, motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Councilor Painter,
Second.
second by Councilor Weinkauf. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Would council like to hear from Josh Crook?
Madam Mayor, can I say
Please.
something real quick?
Please.
I have made an offer on a condo at Preserve, and I think on this vote, I will excuse myself because I think there may be a conflict there.
Okay.
Unless you have a direct financial interest in the outcome of the vote, it's not an impermissible conflict. I mean, I understand that you feel like it has an appearance of it. I don't think you have to recuse yourself unless you have a direct financial interest.
I do not.
And so it's up to you.
I just want to make everybody aware.
Okay.
Someone on the council feels that he does, you can always make your own motion and it'd be to a vote. But I appreciate you disclosing that before we got into any type of discussion. Okay.
Okay. Josh, would you like to give us an overview of exactly what this is on the modification of the PUD?
Sure. As you guys know, back in March of 2004, the Preserve as a condominium complex was approved. There was originally going to be 246 units, all residential, and it was encompassing 42.45 acres. Buildings 2, 3, and 4 were built. Building 5 has a shell put up. Obviously, that's what sometimes affectionately called the Beirut Building. It has been sitting in our gateway of our town for quite a few years. The gist of this is they are modifying they're significantly modifying the character of the PUD that was approved. I took it to planning board. They agreed, and they believed that a public hearing needed to be held. This is one of those things where we've got an opportunity to see some action, see some movement on something we've all, and at least I would say all but one of you shared with me it's one of your desires that we get something done with this. I know Mr. Foster has it as a goal when he first came on that we get this thing moving, and we've worked towards that. As far as the overall view of the new development, I'd ask that Mr. Bob Duffy, he's a managing partner in the new development, and I'd like for him to give you guys a better overview of what's going to happen there. So.
Yeah. Will it project?
I'll get him to get it.
Thanks, Josh, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just wanted to address a few of the common questions that have come up, and we've had someone that submitted something in writing as well as someone that presented tonight. They're very common questions and typical concerns of any modification like this. I'll start with some of the later ones and work up to the first one, and that is the parking for the pool is simply going to be relocated to another location within the plan. Secondly, that the plan submitted was a higher density plan than we plan on moving forward with. Obviously, there were 98 condominiums proposed for buildings 5 and 6. Building 5 is the existing building that you see that's partially complete. Building 6 was across the street proposed but not yet started. So out of those 98 units, we were proposing building 50 or less. The plan right now is 35. The plan that the gentleman was commenting on earlier actually had 41 units, so we've reduced the plan, not knowing what those comments were. We took it upon ourselves, so there's actually less density on the building 5 pad, which would address his concerns about the density immediately. There still will be a few units around that pond. The boardwalk will be relocated to afford the ability to keep the pond, in its proposed position. The boardwalk would simply be relocated at the developer and the builder's expense. A lot of landscaping effort and cost will be borne by the development and the building of the cottages, and so buffering of the pool, buffering of the cottages, and an entry feature enhancement is all in the development and building budget. So all those are very important. What I've done is I've just provided a very brief overview so that folks can see, if I can get it to work, folks can see what we're doing. What you're looking at in the top of the screen on the plan is the pond that the gentleman had discussed. And in this particular plan, there's actually shows 32, but there'll be about 35 lots total. Originally, on the plan that gentleman had referenced, there were a lot of smaller cottages up in that building 5 area. We've eliminated that simply because those were prototype units that were even smaller than our typical size cottage product. So there are cottages all over our area, Kate's Cove and otherwise, that are the same lot size, which is 60 by 100, very common in our market these days. Their sales are very strong and evident. And this is all about making it economically feasible for the developer and the builder that will be chosen to pay for the demolition. Obviously, that demolition is in a pre-existing condition that we're all dealing with. So I had to get creative, being an agent for the developer, essentially to fund that demolition so that the town and the developer didn't have to. So the actual builder and developer chosen to build these cottages will actually be funding the removal of that building. Once that building comes down, I think everyone would agree that's going to be a massive improvement for the town of Oak Island and everyone's enjoyment of our area. Beyond that, the plan is obviously to have a very good sales program and some good sales absorption and get these units built and sold so that everyone can enjoy the community. And what you'll see up on the plan is obviously building 6 is in the lower portion of that plan. And as I said before, it shows 32. We're planning on having 35 total units, which is even less than the 50 I proposed, Josh, but it's still a great reduction in the 98 that would have been built between the two buildings 5 and 6. This is the existing building 5 that we're proposing to remove and demolish. For everyone's knowledge, I joined Mr. and Mrs. Cherico on an annual POA meeting a few weekends ago. We had, out of 134 units, we had about 80-some people that showed up. No one objected over our general plan, and there were comments like we heard this evening. And I expect, and also, I totally understand that people want to get involved and they want to have a good understanding of how it will affect them. Our interests are exactly what we've heard tonight from both the write-in applicant as well as the person that presented. So Building 5 will be removed in its entirety. All the materials, with the exception of a few wire wrappings, everything's getting recycled. The concrete's getting recycled. The steel's getting recycled. There'll be a little bit of wood and exterior rated gypsum material that will end up just turning to dust by the time we do all this. But from a green, if you will, perspective, and just being earth conscious, it's going to be very much part of our plan. Dust control obviously is an issue, so we'll have sprayed water on site available. All the contractors that were invited to bid on this have been proven to do this safely. It won't be imploded like we see on TV. It'll be removed with a grappling arm and crushed with an arm of a Traco, essentially. So it's very safe. We'll have construction fencing and we're going to limit the time it takes, but also limit the liability. So it's very effective, proven methods. These are the type of cottages that are being built in Southport, St. James, Oak Island areas now. From the top of the screen down, they're typically anywhere from 1,400 to 2,100 square feet. Price points, as I said in our meeting with residents, anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000, which is there'll be some slightly above 200. There'll be some probably in the mid fours, maybe even 5 that overlook the waterway. The goal here is to provide essentially a condominium with a garage concept, so that the exterior landscaping is maintained by the sub-association, just like a condominium. The difference is these will be sold as fee simple, meaning that the people actually own their lot and own their house. In a condo, they own from the inside of their drywall, and that's it. There will be a service area set up just for the cottages, which will be maintaining the landscaping. The existing condominium association will become a regime or a service area in and of itself to maintain all the landscaping and building maintenance on there, and then there'll be a new master association created to handle all of the roads and common area landscaping. So it's very common practice, very common structure in community development these days, legally and otherwise. And the dues will stay very much the same for existing residents. Obviously, they'll be proposed for the new cottage area. The only differences between the condominium association regime and the cottage association regime will simply be the expenses in their landscaping and their building maintenance. Obviously, it's totally different building types. The common association, the umbrella association, those fees will be the same regardless whether you're a condominium owner or a cottage owner. Very equitable and fair. Here is just a plan. It's a wetlands delineation map, also showing Building 5 above next to the pool and that pond that we have discussed before, and then the proposed Building 6 on the bottom. That's it.
Thank you.
Hopefully I've addressed all the questions.
Does any council member, excuse me, have any questions for Mr. Duffy, please?
Mr. Duffy, the parking for the clubhouse, could you show us where that's going to be?
Yes, sir.
Tell us.
Mr. Medlin, the other, I'm going to highlight this. The other thing that we plan on doing, obviously, is bringing the final engineer plans to the planning board again for their review as well. So we'll be addressing acute details of this. But if you look at the existing clubhouse, I don't have a laser pointer, unfortunately, but the clubhouse is kind of middle of the page going vertically and then all the way to the right. And you'll see it basically in the entire front of it. There'll be slot parking.
what we'll all be aware of, obviously, there'll be some street parking along the roads too, in front of that whole area in there. There's also a wetlands, if you note at the very bottom of that image, there's a wetlands note pointing to a rectangular area. Right now, that's proposed from our wetlands delineation, thank you, from our wetlands delineation consultants, that's proposed as a borrow or spoil pit. It's right here. It's rare that Mother Nature would leave us with a rectangular set of wetlands. So we're all but sure that when they developed and built this years ago that they had used it for borrowing and putting spoiled soil and so forth in there. So we're investigating that now. If that's the case, we'll have additional areas for parking and open space. So that's the idea right now, is parking here along the road, parking here along the road, and then we'll see what happens in here once we get the wetland delineation survey back. Did that answer your question, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Medlin?
You did, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from council?
I hate to be the only one
Please.
asking questions, but these are questions that are in my mind. Looking at this property adjacent to the pool, there's lots 8, 9, and 10, I think they are.
Right here?
Is that right? Right on the front?
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
They'll-
lots there.
Yeah, and there'll be a couple more right in here. The pond, if you'll notice, right now, and the boardwalk, to the gentleman's point, is right there. That boardwalk will be relocated. That pond will be reshaped. It'll actually become longer out in here. So the capacity is the same. It's not a stormwater pond. It's an aesthetic feature. So our plan is to redistribute it so it's approximately the same size, and then relocate the boardwalk around it so that people can still enjoy it.
Okay, those 3 lots there, what's the size of those lots? I couldn't find.
These are all about 60 by 100 lots, and they front on this little spur right here. They actually don't front on this road.
Okay.
They front on this, so that road will just be extended a little bit, and they'll all front off that little cul-de-sac bulb.
So you're going to actually extend that road on to where it would meet probably this inside corner of Lot 8?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the driveways then would be off of that street, not
Off of that street, yeah, they would not be fronted up here purposely. Well, we do plan on putting a buffer back here on the road so that, again, common concern and question or comment would be, we don't want to look into the backs of the house, or the homeowners don't want to look in the backs of the cars. So we're going to put up a small berm and some good heavy landscaping. Keep the pond view open for obvious reasons.
Any other questions from council, please? Okay, thank you, Mr. Duffy.
You're welcome, thank you.
With that, Chair will entertain action by the council on this application.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the modification to this conditional use permit as presented in our packets.
Planned unit development, not.
Planned unit development, yes.
Okay. We have a
Second.
second by Councilor Painter. Any further discussion from council? If not, all those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Thank you for working so hard, Mr. Duffy, and as you said, we're all just going to love seeing that skyline come down.
Yeah, a quick question, Mr. Duffy. When could we expect to see some work start there?
Obviously, the further activity was predicated on the approval with y'all, and then afterwards, we plan on getting a closing with one of 2 builders that we've invited to bid. They both made, very, very good, worthy offers to the property owners, the initial developers. Once we select, we plan on closing this in less than 30 days and starting demolition immediately. So I would see demolition within 45, 60 days maximum, and the demolition time is expected to be 5 to 6 weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Trying to find my agenda slide. Okay, next is council reports. Councilor Kaiser, please.
No report, Mayor Wallace.
Councilor Scott.
No report.
Councilor Miller. Councilor Painter.
No report?
Madam Mayor, I'd like, since this is our comment period too, I'd like to make a little comment when I usually don't make these comments. But something really hit me, I guess sort of personally as a council member too, it hit me. When I sit here and make decisions and listen to our people here tell us what they want done on this island, we heard about the large homes, nobody wanted that. They don't want many hotels. We try to make wise decisions. And I recently read something in the paper where we were called ludicrous because we made these decisions because we listened to the people. Our sewer system, we know we had problems with. We wanted to find out the answers for it. That's why we created sizes for houses, because what we learned was 6.5 people per house, which I think we made a wise decision. And we added in parking to sort of create where we can sort of govern how many people really go in a house. And then I've got something about appeals court upholding parking decisions, because in Chapel Hill there was a lot of college students piling in houses and they wanted to limit it. And the appeals were upheld. And when I make a decision and vote for the people on this island, I don't think our decisions are ludicrous. I think we listen to the people and do what they want done, because that's why we sit here. It really insulted me personally, and I think it was an insult to the council to be called ludicrous for decisions we make. And I think if you're going to sit on a board and see that way, maybe you've lost contact what these people on the island want. And that's just what I've got on my mind, and that's all I really got to say. I feel insulted by that comment.
Thank you, Mr. Weinkauf. Very quickly, June 1st, I was honored to put the crowns on the heads of the princesses for the annual Southport Oak Island Queen and Princess pageant. That is for a very worthy cause. They raise money and they give scholarships every year to high school students in memory of little Teddy Hyatt. He's a little boy, I don't know if all of you remember, years ago, fell from the tree and lost his life. And so this is a very worthy cause. They represent our area well. Farmers Market is ongoing. I was not able to make it yesterday, but I was there last week before. All the seasonal produce, it is great. The handmade jewelry, everything is just as good as, I think it's better than it has been in past years. Bit of information, we have all been looking at the widening of Highway 211 from 17 all the way to NC 87 for years upon years. We were at the point that it had been approved. In fact, we went through a turmoil about them trying to put it in an urban interchange. Through the Cape Fear RPO and RTAC meetings, I recently found out that Department of Transportation has transferred that funding to other projects. So they have pulled the money for the right-of-way acquisition, and that particular project is indefinitely on hold. Members of the RPO got with our county commissioners, and on June 19th, we will be having a meeting with area representatives they've got a totally new way of rating these projects, and it is division and area and state. And to us, that rate's a very high project. Statewide, it may not. But we're doing everything we can to get that put back on the plans again, just like we did. But the amount of money they budgeted, Josh, tell me if I say anything in this wrong, the amount of money they budgeted for our division, this particular project in and of itself will take up most of the money. So that's why they're transferring it to two other projects that have been on there, but all of a sudden they've come up to the fore again. But we'll keep you posted on that and whether we get our funding back for that again. Don't forget that July 1st, it happens before our next meeting, is our annual beach day. And the Recreation Department always done a does a bang-up job on Beach Day. That's our very favorite celebration, and included in the budget to be approved is the money for the fireworks. So anybody that's going to call and ask for it, yes, we're going to do the fireworks again this year. And don't forget the North Carolina 4th of July Festival, July 4th parade. May 17th, we had our Turtle Triathlon and our first Crawl Festival. I was not able to make it. I regret that, but I heard that it was absolutely fantastic. Once again, another Recreation Department program and event that they hold. I've heard it said that people are upset about the cuts in services from our rec department, and we haven't had any cuts in services from the rec department. They're still doing virtually all of the programs that they did before. I don't know of any programs that have been cut or services that they provide to the community, and that's because we appreciate stuff like this Turtle Triathlon. Volunteer Appreciation Dinner, Mary's right, it was absolutely fantastic. I appreciate the volunteers that came out there. We all had a great time, and I want to thank Lisa Stites once again and the entire staff for their work on putting together that. It was a picnic. We had a great time up at Bill Smith Park with games, and we had it catered with barbecue and steaks, and it was great this year. That was Councilor Weinkauf, that was exactly what I had in mind when I said we should do very much a volunteer appreciation event. And that is my report.
About the triathlon, you got any?
Oh, the triathlon. Thank you. We, this past weekend, had the third annual Bridge to Pier Triathlon. That is not an event that's put on by our town recreation department, but it is put on by a national extreme events company. We had over 300 entries this year. There were 40 it was their first ocean triathlon. Almost half of the participants were from the Brunswick County, and we had dozens from Oak Island. Two of the winners that placed didn't get first place, but they were from my hometown, Stanley. I got rave reviews again. I would like to thank the State Port Pilot for sending out a photographer. Was that Ed that was there? Yeah, I thought it was. I just hadn't seen him in so many years. And he emailed me and suggested sponsorships for next year's event. It was a major success. They do a very professional job. It's done on a Saturday morning, off the season, so it won't interfere with traffic, and everybody is done, and they've got their awards by 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. So it was, once again, an absolutely great event, and the Tony and Lance, Chief Edinger, said to please give their special thanks to our police department, especially Chris, because they help out so much with that. And I'd like to thank the Marlins swim team. They came and had over a dozen members that help with the water stations and stuff. So I'll be sending them a letter of thanks. It's always the first Saturday in June. So go ahead and look for next year's event and sign up for a leg on it. I won't be doing that, but y'all can. Thanks, I forgot. Thank you for reminding me of that. Next, presentations, proclamations, and recognitions. We do have a presentation by the Capital Improvement Committee of our annual Capital Improvement Plan.
I think Kyle is going to help me out with this. No, there we go. Okay, perfect. Carl Bush, co-chair of the Capital Improvement Committee. My fellow co-chair, Kelly Germain, could not be here today. We have a short presentation. Every year we present as a committee the Capital Improvement Plan as part of the Council's annual budget process. Historically, the Capital Improvement Plan has been presented to the Town Council and the residents at the May Town Council meeting, And this year, you'll see highlighted up there that we were moved from the May meeting to the June meeting at the town council and the mayor's request due to a crowded agenda. This slide shows who we are and what we do. The Capital Improvement Committee, we are a recommending committee. We make recommendations on capital expenditures for the upcoming fiscal year, 14-15, and the 5-year planning horizon, so 14-15 through 18-19. So it's a multi-year plan as well. We also identify future capital expenditure needs not addressed in any of the plans or any of the submittals, and we refine our own process to prepare a better product, a better outcome moving forward. Most importantly, at the bottom, we are a resident committee, and our work enables resident inputs to the town budget process. We are always actively looking for ways to engage residents in our capital improvement planning process. All of our meetings are open meetings. We welcome questions and inputs. Our capital improvement plan is available for resident access on the town website. So our product, the capital improvement plan, is as much a report to you, the residents, as it is to the town council, so that you can input to the town budget process. And that's why we were disappointed in our inability to present at last month's meeting.
Mr. Bush, I'm sorry, I don't mean to stop you. We did have the presentation by the Capital Improvement Committee. They asked if they could present it, I believe, April 29th. Was that the date? The first budget workshop. Mm-hmm. We found out after we got to the meeting that Kyle was not here and there would be no ability to videotape that particular meeting. We only had like 2 people from the general public here. The committee did request that they be able to do the presentation again at the regular May meeting. The manager and I and the town council members agreed that the May meeting was so incredibly heavy, and we asked the committee to defer until this particular meeting. Don't mean there was no personal agenda by anyone. So it was just a series of happenstances, and I think you will get more attention paid at tonight's meeting. So I just wanted to go ahead and interject that as we go through the rest of the presentation.
Appreciate your interjection.
Did not mean to be rude to anyone.
Well, appreciate your interjection, and I'm certainly not intending the same. Okay? We've historically presented in my 9 years on the committee at the May meeting.
Correct.
And we felt it was an important part of the budget process, and I'm sure everybody up on the council does as well.
Yes.
So, asking questions is the heart of our process, and what you're looking at on this slide is the heart of our process. Our job is to identify critical capital needs for the town, and once identified, we vet or test these needs. In other words, understand the what and the why behind the need. We also push the town department managers to find the best and the most cost-effective ways to fund the need. In the bottom, in red, you see that changes were made this year to the capital improvement process. In fiscal 14-15, the lower limit was changed from $5,000 to $30,000. So something that would have been reviewed by us last year at 10 or 15 or 25,000 was not reviewed this year because of the change to 30,000. This is a simplified view of our capital improvement plan process. Our timeline runs from October to June. Most importantly, this is an iterative process, which means we really refine and review our final product many times during the process. We start in October reviewing last year's results and understanding what happened with the department managers and the town manager. October through December, the department managers and the town manager, they identify needs, they do their homework, and they create the capital improvement funding requests. January through March, the Capital Improvement Committee reviews those requests with the department managers and the town manager, and in April we develop our capital improvement plan and review it with the town council in a workshop. In June, the town council approves the budget for next year. The capital improvement plan process enables us to keep track and learn from what happens with just one capital improvement funding request and with all of the requests. In fact, the major reason for having a process is to learn and improve the results of our capital expenditures over time. The major reason for having the process is to learn and improve. In fiscal year 14-15, you can see in the top line we received 20 total requests, and of those 20, 509,000 and change was for fiscal 14-15, and 9.4 million was for the full 5-year planning horizon. 3 requests totaling $310,363 were recommended to the town council for approval in fiscal year 14-15. 7 requests totaling $1,211,000 and change were identified and recommended for future approval in fiscal year 15-16 through 18-19. And 10 requests out of the 20 totaling $7.7 million were recommended to be withdrawn from the capital improvement plan. Of these 10, 6 requests for fiscal 14-15 totaling $205,525 were under the $30,000 limit and withdrawn from the process. The footnote is, with the change in the threshold level, these 6 requests are now within the approval limits for the town manager and reasonably would be expected to be found in the fiscal 14-15 budget. This is a visual view of our recommendation, and you can see in green, the green piece of the pie is the 3 requests totaling $310,363 recommended for approval this current fiscal year, 14-15. The yellow is the 7 requests which need to be reevaluated and approved in the year they are submitted for, fiscal 15-16 through 18-19. Just like a traffic light, the yellow signifies keeping our eye on these, keeping alert on these, because they are expenditures that we felt we should be planning on, even though we didn't need to act on it this year. The red is the 10 requests which were recommended to be withdrawn from the process. The last pictorial here is a visual representation of the 10 requests recommended for withdrawal. The red is the 4 requests which were above $30,000 threshold, $7 million and change, which we recommended being withdrawn from the process. The green represents the 6 requests, or the lighter pie shape, under the $30,000 threshold, which were withdrawn from the CIP process, but in effect, those $205,000 worth of expenditure should be expected to be approved. Our final point made in our report regards priorities which don't come packaged as capital improvement funding requests. Some are large dollar expenditure items like beach maintenance and renourishment. Many are from comments and inputs we receive as a committee from you, the residents. Many of these are recommendations like the Capital Reserve Fund that we've made in previous years, and some, like ensuring we have enough understanding of our air-vac sewer system to operate it safely and in a fiscally sound manner, ensure we plan for future capital replacement and maintenance needs of an expensive item like the sewer system. We feel importantly that these additional recommendations, even though they didn't have a funding request attached to them, they're part of our charter to ensure the town appropriately stewards our resources as well as our tax dollars. Finally, Kelly and I want to thank all of our Capital Improvement Committee members who work diligently every month of the year at every meeting to evaluate and ensure we have the best product possible.
Thank you, Carl.
Any questions?
Any council member have any questions, please?
No, thank you for the job y'all do.
Yes,
It's really outstanding.
You're welcome.
thank you. And Mr. Foster, the approved capital improvement plan is always included in the budget document, correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The approved capital improvement plan is normally included in the budget document?
I mean, we can go back and post that online and put it in
Okay.
there. Yeah.
All right. Maybe post it just as a separate
We
document.
can
on-
post it
yeah.
online. I think everybody here's got a copy of the capital.
Yeah, we do. Okay, next we have adjustment and approval of the agenda. Council members, you have at your desk this evening a resolution for request for financial assistance for beach erosion abatement. That will be discussed under new business number 6. So we don't have to worry about adding that separately. Does any other council member have any adjustments to the agenda, please? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Mayor, motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Councilor Painter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Medlin. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Next, we have public comments. This is general topics and agenda items. You have 5 minutes to speak. I got that right this month. Please, when you come to the podium, state your name and address, and the clerk will begin timing your comments after you state your name and address. First to sign up is J.C. Moss.
My name is J.C. Moss. I live at 608 Eshott Drive. I've been a member of the Oak Island Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for over 12 years. I've volunteered and worked closely with the staff and have witnessed the fine job they do, which makes me realize how important the department is to this town. Recently, our town was named the second best town in the United States to retire in. I'm sure the Parks and Recreation Department had a positive influence on this decision. The department plays a significant part in the growth, health, and fitness of our town. I am here to ask the council not to cut the Parks and Recreation budget any more than they already have. The staff, at times, the staff has to lock the office door if somebody wants to rent a kayak. They lock the office door sometimes to clean the bathroom, to do the floor, to clean the floors. And you'll never find the Parks and Recreation Department dirty. It's always been clean. I've never seen it dirty. And I've never heard any of the department complain about anything they had to do. I think they do a very good job. I would like to thank all the Parks and Recreation Department staff for their hard work and dedication they do in making the department such an important asset to the growth, health, and fitness and recreation of our town. I would like to ask again not to cut their budget farther. I have something here I would like to read. It's from the North Carolina General Statute 168-351 Declaration of State Policy. The lack of adequate recreational programs and facilities is a menace to the morals, happiness, and subject of general interest and concern, and the function requiring appropriate action by both state and local government. The General Assembly therefore declares that the public good and the general welfare of the citizens of the state require adequate recreational programs, that the creation, establishment, and operation of parks and recreation programs is a proper governmental function, and that it is the policy of North Carolina to forever encourage, foster, and provide these facilities and programs for all its citizens. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Next is Nikki Cutler. Sorry.
My name is Nikki Cutler. I live at 2212 East Dolphin Drive. I've been there for 3 years, a little over 3 years, and prior to that I lived for over 6 years on East Beach Drive. So I've lived for almost 10 years in the thick nest of the tourists. And I wanted to thank council for passing the ordinance about the beach gear removal, because it is so nice now to be able to go out onto the beach and not see tents, canopies, and everything else there that I have been seeing for 10 years. So I want to appreciate that. Thank you very much for passing that. It looks like they're doing a pretty good job. I see the beach ambassadors out there, and it's just a huge improvement on the way that the beach looks at night and even in the late evenings. One small thing still, of course, on the other side of the dunes, the trash cans are still a problem. They're a huge eyesore. I have tried to educate my block on when the trash cans get picked up. I've given them pieces of paper. I have told them. I've offered to do it for them. I just don't think there's a teachable moment there for people that are just here for a week. So my opinion is they really need to put that responsibility on the rental agencies. I've offered to do it for them. I've done everything I can, and no matter what I do, they put all the trash cans out every day of the week. So, but I appreciate the gear thing. If we could just get the East Beach Drive and Dolphin cleared up of all those trash cans all the time, that would just be great. But I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cutler. Next is Richard Bunce.
Richard Bunce, 125 Northeast 26th Street. Something happened on this island, the triathlon, without the town government doing it? How could that be? Thanks to Jeff for your conflict of interest disclosure. I wish you were setting a precedent, including for board members. I support the town requesting that the county assume utility service for the new development out on 211. It would surely cost the town more to oversee this new utility system than the revenues received. The town utility customers will still benefit when these new customers come online at the county treatment plant, as that will lower treatment costs for all wastewater customers across southeast Brunswick County. It would have been unconscionable for the town to foist the island service area utility debt service expense on these mainland customers, and of course, how would staff have ever been able to set up an additional sewer district? I also still have not heard any resolution to the incorrect interest applied to my annual special assessment balance this year, even after I paid off the balance last year, and after hearing from staff that it was indeed incorrect. I am not interested in a $16 refund, as much as knowing the problem has been disclosed and fixed for all who decided to pay their special assessment over time. To close with a good final comment, that thermostat is at 72 degrees as it had been since the building was opened.
Thank you, Mr. Bunce. I forgot to turn it up this evening. I'm cold, too. Next is Robert Fitzgerald.
Robert Fitzgerald, 404 West Yacht Drive. Progressive, on the move, buildings, sidewalks, the bridge, town hall, the fire stations. The leadership was fantastic. We were looking forward The island was a fantastic place to be, to live, and to grow. What happened to our leadership? We still have some with visions of where we're going and what we can be. Unfortunately, we lack leadership. We have people in positions. We have people with power. We are lacking the leadership. One asked what a particular person at the rec center did. Was this a surprise? How many have we seen at activities? No wonder they don't know what people are doing or what was going on in our community. We had teams of people working for the future. We had leadership driving these teams to grow, to be great. Look around us today. The staff, the team is demoralized. The spirit is gone. The people in power, note I didn't say leaders, have taken the pride, the spirit out of our teams. Any leader, coach, or such knows how important the team. The leaders look after the team, provide the needed incentives to make the team strong. Having served in Vietnam, I recall the leaders that looked after the teams. The leaders were respected. Soldiers followed them. Soldiers died with them. Our team is demoralized. Our team has lost spirit. Our group is no longer a team. We need leadership. We need people that have respect. You know who you are and what you are. So do we.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Next is Malcolm Morrison.
Malcolm Morrison, 119 Southwest 21st Street. I wish to speak for a moment or two, just a moment or two, Betty. Federal grant funding for the kayak dock and Bill Smith Park. Now, in about 2010, the Ad Hoc Ocean and Estuarine Access Committee completed the 2010 Ocean and Estuarine Access Plan. It was briefed to the Town Council and the Planning Board. No comments were made by either entity there that day. I don't know the status of the plan today, but it had some recommendations in it. At least I see one is forwarded it and being acted on, this fund grant here for the kayak launch. I would like to think that it also has fishing associated with it. I haven't seen the details on that, but I'm pretty sure it's room to share. It was one of the committee's recommendations that we made, and we previously had made we made recommendations for access under the two bridges. And that has been approved by the state that if we work with them, we can have more public access in the right-of-way for the old bridge and under the new bridge that we have. But it's got to be engineered just right. So what we need to do now is start the planning process. Where would it start? What entity here will do it? And I see that this funding grant has been achieved by the Parks and Rec. That might be a place where the planning would begin. for why we want to develop these two access places so that we're ready when the money comes, because we probably don't have the money now. The budget's tight, but we need to have it planned and approved by DOT so it's on the shelf and we get some funding, we can go ahead and execute on it. And that's, so I ask the council to urge whatever body in the staff, whatever department, to initiate some planning on this for us to go ahead. And there are other things that are in that plan. There was numerous recommendations that I would like to see reviewed and acting on. Some of the things that we recommended doing away with from a cost-benefit perspective are still in the CAMA land use plan. And that needs to be addressed and cleared, or however you decide, okay? And so applause for the Recreation Department for getting this grant and going forward. I hope that everyone will enjoy it over there, and then we can move out to get more access. And the important thing about both of these places, off the park, under the two bridges, that's publicly owned land. There shouldn't be much controversy about getting it done. We're not encroaching on other people's property rights because the state or the county or the town owns it, and we're good to go that way. And it's a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Next is Sylvia Beck.
Sylvia Beck, 4836 Coastal Drive, Southport. Thank you for the volunteer appreciation picnic. It's given me great joy and pleasure to volunteer my time and to give my finances to the Oak Island Parks and Recreation Department. J.C. Moss indicated that I'm not an official part of Oak Island Parks and Recreation. I didn't realize that I had to be an official part to volunteer. And since I'm not official, I guess I might not even be allowed to volunteer this year. I don't know. The volunteer appreciation picnic was absolutely wonderful. The food was outstandingly delicious. Marianne and I were seated with 5 volunteers that we didn't know, had never met, but within 5 minutes, we were laughing and talking like old friends. The common denominator? The Big Bang Theory. All of us watched it and could talk freely about what was going on. Thank you again for the picnic. And I just want to say one more thing. On Red, White, and Blue Day at the Parks and Recreation Camp, we will be having funnel cakes. Now, there may not be enough strawberries and blueberries to go around, but there'll be enough funnel cakes. And I will also do this for the Boys and Girls Club if someone invites me to come. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Next is Mary Brewer.
Marion Brewer, 3524 East Pelican Drive. I don't have much else to say, except I can give you real quick 2 activities that have not taken place, and that is for Oak Island to go over and meet with Boiling Springs. There has been an every other month thing with them for years, but not this year. not this last one, didn't go.
I'm sorry, every other month.
Every other month, they have either come to our rec department and we've had a get together, or we've gone to their rec department and had a get together. But the rec department didn't have enough people to do this anymore. There were ice cream socials. There were Rumicube tournaments. Those come to me right off the top of my head. I don't know what's going to happen under the new budget, but there is an impact, particularly on activities for seniors. So there is.
Thank you, Ms. Brewer. That's all that's signed up to speak during general and comments and agenda items. Anyone else wish to speak, please? If not, we will go into the regular portion of our meeting. I think we can get through the consent agenda before we take a break. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Madam Mayor?
Please.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Medlin. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Would the council like to go through the committee appointments before we take a break?
Yes.
Please. Okay. Okay. All right. First, we have for the Cape Fear Regional Jetport Commission, we have one 4-year term, and we have an application by Mr. Bob Lloyd. All those in favor of appointing Mr. Lloyd, please. And that is 4. Okay, so that's a majority. Thank you, Mr. Pickler, for applying. Next, we have the Capital Improvement Committee. We have 3 terms ending in June 2017. We have 2 applicants. All those in favor of appointing Helen Cashel, please. And it is unanimous. And all those in favor of appointing Robert Salim, please. And I hope I pronounced that properly. And it is unanimous. Next, we have the Oak Island Environmental Advisory Board. We have 3 terms ending June 2017. We have 3 applicants. First is Roger Bocchini. Everyone in favor of appointing Mr. Bocchini? And everyone in favor of appointing Tony Marie Clifton? And it is unanimous. I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk, Madam Clerk, Mr. Clerk. We're going to give each other all kind of titles, aren't we? It was unanimous for Mr. Bocchini. And all those in favor of appointing Jane Kulesha, please. And it is unanimous. And there were several of these that were reappointments, but I wasn't sure which ones were. Next, we will take a quick break before we go into. We will call the meeting back to order, please. Next on the agenda is committee reports. We do have one committee report, the Oak Island Emergency Services Advisory Board by Reese Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Try to keep that to a minimum. Doesn't seem to work. Y'all look spiffy. About as dressed up as I get, sorry. We called a special meeting last week of the Oak Island Emergency Services Advisory Board to discuss a matter relating to your budget that's being proposed to you. And that was the addition of a position in the fire department for fire inspector. After we carefully looked at the situation, the funding possibilities for that particular job, the way it was going to be funded, and the obvious need for it, there was a unanimous vote taking that was a needed position to be added to the fire department roster. Hope you'll take that advice. In the spirit it was meant, we followed suit with Councilman Kaiser and Councilman Medlin and the manager and the chief himself in seeing the need for this. And I hope you understand that we didn't take it lightly. I know right now money's a very important issue to everybody in the town. I can't imagine what you've been going through with this sewer situation as council members. I feel like I had it easy in my time. But please look at this very carefully. There's a lot of peripheral areas that this affects that you might not know everything about. And before you make that final decision, if you need any more information from us, we're glad to give it to you. To expand on the activity of the committee, you reorganized it, you might say. You added more members, voting members, to 5, and rearranged the responsibilities of the chiefs of the departments in that particular board. We've already made an outline of what we look to do in the coming year. Just so many things to look at. Emergency services is going to explode in the next couple of years or so in responsibilities. We look at the Charles. That's a scary project to look down the road at, but it's going to be a boon for Oak Island financially. We hope we'll get on a better footing, but we've got to look ahead to get prepared for that. We're also looking at the fire districting as we see it now. It hasn't been touched in 20 years, since virtually every fire department in this county was a local volunteer fire department, and that's the way you did. Back then you had fire districts and everybody was responsible for this area. Well, since then, the picture's changed. The professional career firefighter station has come of age, and several municipalities here in Brunswick County have that, Oak Island being one of them. We're considered a combination department now, paid/volunteer, and right now it's lion's share paid/volunteer. It's nice that we're in the position to be able to do that. It gives our citizens the best emergency service coverage for fire, police, and rescue that we can afford to give. We're doing a real good job of that. Now, with redistricting, we're going to look at hopefully leveling the playing field a little bit. If you look at the redistricting map, and I can bring that next month if you'd like a copy of it, there's a situation now where if you drive down Airport Road behind the airport, you'll go from Oak Island Fire District into a Southport Fire District, back into an Oak Island Fire District, and then into a Yopon Fire District. It reminds me of the gerrymandering of District 4 of the State House. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's just the leftover from years and years of neglect of taking care of the fire districts. Hope to push that forward. Now, what we've got to be careful of is what we wish for, we might get. And that is redistricting in a more sensible manner might land us in the position to be responsible for a lot more area to cover. That not only in fire protection and emergency services, EMS, but also in inspections. So we have to look ahead, not just next year, but 2 or 3 years down the road, and this would be a good start. For one time, we could be ahead of the 8 ball instead of behind it. And I'd like to have your support on funding that position this coming budget year. And I'd entertain any questions if you have them.
Any council member have any questions? Thanks. Thanks for coming and giving a report. Appreciate it. Do we have any other commitment?
Roseanne Fortner for Beach Preservation Society on the Trust Fund Advisory Board. The Beach Preservation Society is pleased to announce 3 aquarium programs that we have invited. Their outreach staff will be coming on the 3rd Tuesday of each of our summer months with a program at the Recreation Center at 2 p.m. The first one of those programs is next week on Tuesday, 2 p.m., and that will be about turtle tails. Not only will they be talking about the kinds of things that you would expect in the turtle information part of the program, but they'll also have a stewardship message and a beach lovers component to each of these programs. Another thing that we'll be doing during the summer is taking inventory and managing the quality of the things that are at each of our beach accesses. Many of the bike racks have now been sanded in so that only the little bitty clown bikes could put a wheel into some of them. So we'll be taking inventory of those and working with some folks to help to get those cleared out so that real bikes can fit into those holes. We'll look at the doggy boxes and get those up to snuff with all of the proper signage on them so people can take care of their pet waste in appropriate ways. We have 2 new categories of membership this year for beach preservation. A student membership available for any level of student at just $5. And we have a life membership. This one comes with a premium of not only your lifetime of not being bugged for your membership dues, but also a special ceramic bowl is being made by Donna Michaud with her Turtle Tracks pottery logos on it. So we're pleased to give one of those to each person or family that gets a life membership. Our beach ambassador representative isn't here tonight, so I'd like to make a few statements about how that program is going. Thank you for the comments about how well it's going. We are getting those kinds of appreciative and positive comments everywhere we go with our staff of volunteers talking to visitors about their responsibilities for following the ordinances. We have an intern on board now, and with her youthful energy and considerable computer skills, she is collecting data for us and developing some literature that we can distribute. We are very, very pleased to have that opportunity. The ambassadors are patrolling regularly 3 days a week, but we're going to change that around a little bit with discussion from our current volunteers to see if there are some different schedules that we might like to take on so that we're meeting the challenges more appropriately. It is clear that with more people coming to the beach, the infractions are becoming more numerous. We also need more eyes on the beach, and so we'll be working next week to develop a new recruiting system that will reach out to townspeople that can come up with at least 20 more volunteers for this program in time to be trained for the peak of the season. The responses are still overwhelmingly positive. We appeal to residents and property owners now to please remind your summer guests that we have rules here, and it's for the benefit of everybody's safety. So they need to be responsible for following those rules, just as we do as residents. Finally, we have a number of activities in which you can meet the beach preservation volunteers and the advisory board members. We'll be at 4 of the farmers markets, including next Monday, the aquarium programs, 3 of those, and some other events during the summer. So if you pick up the newest version of the Beach Preserver, our newsletter, hot off the press to be delivered to members tomorrow, there are some copies here, but you will also be able to find out where to reach us. Thanks for all that you do for the beach.
And Rosanna, I appreciate you mentioning Donna Michaud. I was remiss when I talked about the triathlon. She has, from the very first one, made her fired pottery key bowls, knick-knack and keychain bowls, and for the awards. And she participates in the swim leg of a relay team in the triathlon. This year, the 3rd place was she had created cracker and cheese trays from melted and flattened glass wine bottles. So she's recycling the wine bottles. I think they like those better than the first place. So I forgot to thank her, and that's the wife of our Public Works Director, John Michaud. She is probably more involved in our community than he is.
No. He's the Beach Preservationist of the Year.
Yes. Thank you. Does any other committee have a report? Okay, next is our administrative reports. Mr. Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Got a couple, 3 things here that I want to mention. Dolphin Drive is still under construction, and we hope to have the final layer put on for next week. I think that we're all very pleased, and I'd like to thank John Michaud particularly. I think 70th Street turned out wonderfully. It's a big improvement over the way it was, about a month or so ago. It was really torn up badly, and it's really turned out nice. And I hope Dolphin is going to be as nice as that is. Thank you, John. We're still running behind on vegetation pickup, about 2-3 weeks behind. We're still had equipment problems, but bear with us, have patience, and we're going to be getting to you just as quickly as we can. Another reminder, we'd like for everybody to pick up, for residents to pick up and property owners, blue windshield stickers. It's going to make things on the police department and me and everybody else if you guys can go by and pick you up a blue sticker for parking spaces. On the DOT front, we're going to be having bridge closures at night. The bridge closures will be Sunday through Thursday, and they'll be from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. And the detour on Beach Road will be remain as it is, like it is right now, until DOT gets finished with it. Oh, I'm sorry. There'll be rerouting rather than closing. So, but in any event, it'll be rerouted on Beach Road. Farmers Market is open, operating, and just as a reminder, every Monday from 7 a.m. until 1 p.m. until Labor Day. And I'd like to ask Ms. Word if she could come up for a minute. She's got a positive that she'd like to share with everyone on tax collection. So,
isn't it just lane closures on the bridge? One lane closing. Isn't it just lane closures on the bridge?
No, there'll be lane closures.
Yeah, that's what they call rerouting. They'll be
rerouting.
Oh, I thought you said Beach Drive was rerouting. Never mind.
Okay.
The bridge is not going to be closed, and Long Beach
No,
Road is
I'm
not.
sorry,
Yeah.
it's not reclosed. It's
Yep.
just going to be rechanneled. I apologize.
So the positive that the manager was referring to as we were discussing the position that the town's in the current fiscal year, as we head toward the end of this month, which will close our fiscal year, as of today's numbers, our revenue collections for our current year taxes now exceed our budgeted revenue for this year. And what that means is when we budget tax revenues, we have to take the anticipated levy amount and multiply that by the previous year's collection rate. So what that tells us is in this particular fiscal year, we're seeing a higher collection rate than what we saw last year. So that's a bit of good news that we were encouraged to see that those numbers are starting to climb instead of going down as it had in the past 2 years prior to that. Additionally, in that we also noted that the revenue performance right now on all of the funds is looking in pretty good position. In fact, in the general fund, one of the things that we noted is that the revenues will not be in for a good while yet. We don't get our state shared revenues until July, basically, or August, sometimes for the prior fiscal year. But at this point, we're already coming close to meeting the revenue projections for this fiscal year. So we're seeing good performance in our revenues, and I look forward to coming to the point where we have final numbers and be able to bring that information to you with audited figures from last year and then the expected performance for this year. But that was the bit of good news that we were seeing, is that the collection percentage is eking up.
Bonnie, real quick, since our collections look like they are up this year, then when council determines the ad valorem taxes next year, there should be a better picture since we will have a higher collection rate.
That is correct. For example, in the budget that you have before you tonight, it's applied last fiscal year's collection rate to the anticipated number for next year, because that's the maximum we're allowed to apply to expect in a budget number. And so next year we'll be able to apply that higher figure.
Cool. Good deal. Is that do you still have more to report, Mr. Foster?
That's all I have.
2 quick questions. Where they resurfaced the street behind Town Hall back here, I don't think that was on their, you said that was not on their contract?
No, it was not on there. They just did it.
Are they going to fix it?
Yes.
Okay. I got credit for that by the triathlon people. They thought that I got it done just for them.
That was courtesy of the paving company.
Okay. And For the general public, when Mr. Foster was talking about the vegetative debris, we are catching up. I'd like to ask for everyone, please don't put anything on those piles except for tree limbs, leaves, and grass clippings. I picked up an old thrown away newspaper box on a metal post up off of a pile of tree limbs yesterday afternoon, in fact, and need to move, I'll get you with the address, John, we need to move the rocker chair off of the tree limbs. So please, that slows our people down even more. So don't put anything else on there except for tree limbs, grass leaves. Any other questions from council? Okay, Mr. Eads.
No report. We have a few things to discuss in closed session, but no report.
Okay, and we have no old business for this evening. First item under new business, Bonnie, I should not have let you go and sit down. The first item, we have several, most of this is we have several budget approvals to be done. The first two items under new business, we have approval of the sewer district fee and approval of the 2014-15 fee schedule. Now, as far as that pertains to our water, wastewater rates, and the sewer district fee, would you explain that we are going to have an increase again this year? Explain that that was not at the whim of council. It was through the advice of Doug Carter, and this is a continuation of his suggestions from last year, and also the impact that the new software will have on helping us to estimate flow numbers.
Yes, ma'am. The fee schedule that we presented to you at the last meeting has a listing of all of the fees that the staff proposed that the town adopt to use for this coming fiscal year. That includes the sewer district fee, and while that's pulled out as a separate item on the agenda and noted that things would come later, that was actually in your fee schedule with the proposed rate. That number is taken directly from the recommendations of the consultants that the town employed. Doug Carter, who was the financial advisor, and Bart Krebs, who works with Raftellus, who specializes in wastewater and utility rate structures across the nation. And so this was the planned anticipated increase of 11.75% to the sewer district fee. That takes the new number to $719.31. And again, you're right, that is not under a whim. That is something that's been planned out on the basis of the needed revenues for the enterprise system to be able to meet the bond covenants going forward. Additionally, the utility rates are also planned to see that same 11.75% increase, and those are included in the fee schedule as well. And that is just like the sewer district fee was planned in order to be able to meet the needs that are going to come our way with continuing to have the funds available to meet the bond covenants. At the end of last fiscal year, when the consultants came in, we did some interfund loans to be able to handle the needs of cash for the system. And as we go forward paying back those interfund loans, which are actually in the budget, we will continue to need to generate extra cash to be able to have the money to do that going forward to make up that which was used in years past. So we're doing that in a manner, and the numbers as we're coming in throughout the year, the performance of the system is very closely aligned to those estimates as they were presented to us. We looked at it at first quarter, we looked at it at second quarter and third quarter, and in looking at where we are today, we're not at year end yet to look at the fourth quarter, but it looks like we're still continuing in the same path of being aligned with those FFE estimates closely enough that this is the rate that we need to set.
So we did kind of come close. I mean, we met our goals, but we didn't exceed those sufficiently to allow for lesser than an 11.75% increase for the next budget year.
The advice is not to do that, yes, ma'am, because the little bit of variation that there's been from the FFE is not enough to warrant reducing those rates. It would cause you with lower coverage percentages, and fiscal year 15 is actually the year with the lowest coverage level before it starts to increase again as we go forward. So that is, again, why the recommendation would include leaving it just as the consultants recommended to do.
Thank you. With that, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the sewer district fee for 2014-15 budget year, please.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the increase in the sewer district fee for budget year 2014-15.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Scott. Any discussion on that, please?
I'll just interject one comment that I already made, but it's my hope that with our new software, bringing our new software on board, council will be able to entertain discussions on rate restructure, making for our sewer water and sewer rates in the coming year.
Any further discussion, please? And real quickly, I had a long discussion with Bonnie one day about this, and I finally understood what she was saying. In order to meet our bond covenants, we have to produce operations revenue to a certain amount. It's what's called above the line, and the sewer district fee is considered below the line, and the sewer district fee itself is not considered in above the line revenues to go with the bond covenants. So setting it out as a separate number on our utility bills would cause us to have to increase our user rates just to meet the bond covenants, even though we would be producing more money. Did I say that correctly?
And for the purposes of the bond covenant, we get to count the sewer district fee, but for the purposes of our bond rating, it's not considered.
Okay.
The above the line comes into the operating revenues, or what the bond rating agencies look at to determine whether we generate enough revenue to meet the system's needs. And the sewer district fees are not considered operating revenues, they're considered other revenues.
Okay.
So that's why they're below the line, per se.
And that's why I haven't come along with you and really pounded that particular portion of it. Any other discussion by council? If not, all those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Next, the chair will entertain a motion for adoption of the 2014-15 fee schedule, unless any council members have any changes they'd like to make. I should have asked that first. Please.
Madam Mayor, I move to adopt the fiscal year 2014-15 fee schedule as presented to us.
Have a motion by Councilor Painter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Kaiser. Any further discussion, please? If not, all those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Next is adoption of the 2014-15 budget ordinance. The council has had a couple of budget sessions, and Bonnie produced a printout after those amendments to the proposed budget. Does any council member have any changes to that? Or can I have a motion to approve the budget ordinance?
Could we ask Bonnie to explain the differences in the numbers in the new schedule?
If you'll note in the packet, which you have gotten before you tonight as well, emailed out to you, the proposed budget message from the manager has changed somewhat from the prior budget message that he presented, in that the consideration of previous meetings information was taken into play and additional changes were made. Those changes include that this version of the budget, which you have in front of you, does not include an ad valorem tax rate decrease. This, based on the comments of the mayor and others asking if we were able to pay off debt instead of being able to offer a tax decrease, would that benefit us in some way? And as we were working on this, the idea that I came up with, and Steve, the town manager, seemed to think was a good idea, was that we could save some interest money for the town if, instead of reducing that tax rate and putting money in capital for future purchases, we were able to pay off existing debt instead. And so this particular budget includes taking money that would have been used to reduce the taxes and putting that towards a 2008 fire truck, instead paying that down, additionally reducing the amount of capital that would be put in the capital reserve based on the capital improvement plan, and instead using that to pay down the debt. The net effect of that would allow us to pay off that debt that was scheduled to be paid out to 2020 this fiscal year, and that would give us a net savings of approximately $50,000 in interest. In doing so, we were scheduled to have a debt payment annually between now and 2020 of about $85,000 a year, 84 and some change. And so that money next year could be put toward the capital improvement if the council so desired, and it would leave about $50,000 more to make up next year for that fire truck purchase, but would save those other 4 years of $85,000 payments for the town. And I think it'd be a wise use of the town's money. That is included in this proposed budget version. Additionally, in this version, the reduction to the employee Christmas bonuses that was discussed was made. There were changes that pulled out the revenues for the privilege license taxes, so we discussed those. This particular version of the budget as well does include the position in the fire department for the fire inspector. Manager, I've discussed that, and that's the recommended budget, of course, for council to choose to act as you wish on. And additionally, the action to use capital reserve funds to repurpose those for the vacuum and grapple truck purchases for the debris cleanup, that is included in the budget, as well as using some of the money that would have made the ad valorem tax decrease going toward that purchase, so that it would also, by pay-go method or pay-as-you-go, fund the purchase of the equipment that would be needed in the solid waste department as well. So that's the overview of the changes that we presented in this particular version.
And I'd like to note again, I think I noted it at the budget workshop, Councilor Painter actually called me and asked me, she said she and Councilor Cotter had an idea. Let's go on Facebook, and just as it was last year, ask everybody, would you rather have the penny and a half tax decrease, or would you rather, keep it the same? And we got many responses. I haven't gone back and counted how many came from different people, but the overwhelming majority said keep the money and pay off debt, just like we did this past year. And the council ran with and heard what the people said, and you just heard now we're going to be able to save over the life of that loan $50,000 for a penny. This is a penny of the proposed tax reduction. So I appreciate everybody participating in that very unofficial poll on Facebook, but it gave us a lot of good input. Any other questions, discussion by council?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. Could?
Please.
I'd like to make a motion to review the fire inspector position again. I voted in the majority against it, and I'd like to bring that up for discussion again.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we need a second to reconsider that motion, or yes, a second to reconsider?
Motion to discuss it, or you can make a motion to
Do
pass the
you want to
budget.
reconsider the?
Yes.
To reconsider.
Would they need to do that could they just consider the budget?
Well, that's what I was going to suggest. You can make a motion on this budget, and then at the time for discussion, discuss it at that point. It'd probably be easier.
Okay.
Because it's in the budget.
All right.
Okay, Clara.
This proposed budget, as I understand
It is.
correct?
It's in there.
And since that's part of this budget, if the motion is to pass this budget,
That would in effect be,
then you can
okay.
discuss it at that point if it's part of what's on the table.
Okay. Good deal. Councilor Scott would withdraw your motion.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Thank you. Okay. Would council like to make a motion to adopt the 2014-2015 budget ordinance and then have discussion,
Madam Mayor,
please?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the 2014-15 budget that has been presented to us tonight.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Kaiser. Okay, further discussion by council, please.
Well, I'll have to just chime in here and reiterate my position that the fire inspector position that's been, that appears in the budget, even though we voted it down at the previous meeting, I still believe that some more creative solutions could be developed to deal with the backlog of inspections. I think that the list that we were given of businesses needing inspection was included a lot of businesses that are no longer in business. It also included a lot of businesses that, in my opinion, they're mom and pop type businesses that would not necessarily need a fire inspection every year, although they probably need one to be updated if they haven't been inspected in years. The way it appears to me is this is one place where contract services could be employed to catch us up to the point where it could be managed by what I consider to be fire marshals that we already have in place, one being our fire chief and the second being our assistant fire chief. So,
thank you. Any further discussion, please?
Madam Mayor?
No.
I did have some discussion with the chief. I actually went and sit down and talked to him because I was torn. I was with Carol. Do we really need this now? And I see Carol's point of view on this. And when I sit down and talk to him, things were brought up like the Charles, Lowe's Foods, and the need for inspections, especially if you're going to do institutional stuff like skilled nursing, assisted living, and the need for a fire inspector. And I also said I wanted to see numbers. He showed me numbers. He showed me how this position would be paid for except for $500 a year. And I do agree that some of the businesses that are on this sheet are closed now, so there will not be any revenue there. But I can see looking forward and not waiting until the last minute to get somebody who's going to be able to do this. I'm still, like I said, I'm right now I'm 50-50. I'm leaning more going towards the inspector because I think it's something we need to go ahead and get started, get the things caught up, and proceed with the future of what's going to, town's going to grow. And that's what my comment.
I agree with both of you on certain points, and I spoke with the chief and some other people, and apparently they don't have time. The building inspections department says they don't have time, and this is something that's got to be done. And we asked for alternatives to look at. We didn't get any, so I suppose there's none out there. So I'm gonna have to vote for it for public safety.
Okay. Any other discussion on any of the other items included in the budget ordinance? If not, all those in favor, please. All those opposed, please. The motion carries 4-1 with Councilor Painter dissenting. Next, Bonnie, don't leave us yet. Adoption of budget ordinance amendments. Would you explain the two budget ordinance amendments, please, that we need to adopt?
Yes, ma'am. As we get to the end of the year, we do fiscal cleanup, basically, and this is where we're looking at where we're positioned in each of our funds and beginning to identify any that have the potential of exceeding the budget before the end of the year and making adjustments therein as necessary. The first of the two budget amendments is the one that's not stapled, the individual sheet. That one is for the purpose of increasing the professional services budget to the town council, and this is related to legal fees, specifically most of which is related to the stormwater suit that has previously been settled at this point, and there have been revenues to adjust for that, but so that is $120,000, a budget amendment to increase the town council's professional services. Additionally, the second budget amendment, the one that's stapled, is from the other funds, basically allowing the year-end cleanup, and that is salaries in a number of the departments where the budget is not accounting for the full amount needed, and so that affects animal control, the community center, and the water fund. Additionally, we're looking at some overtime expenses in the water maintenance, because you can't very well not fix the water lines when you get a call that you need to go out. Last, the stormwater fund, or excuse me, second to last, the stormwater fund. Because of staffing changes for that particular fund, originally there was no insurance budgeted there, and with staff in that fund, there is an insurance expense for the year, so that's added. And last, the solid waste fund. Overtime expenses, maintenance and repair to the vehicle, and additional tub grinding expenses are necessary. So those are the amendments I anticipate. At this point, if we have no great things outside of the scope of our normal duties, that we would not need additional budget amendments before the end of the year, but we'll just be watching that closely as all the final numbers come in and we get toward the end to make sure.
Anybody have any questions for Bonnie, please?
Why did the salaries go up in animal control and community center?
The animal control one was mostly related to the MAP study. There was an adjustment made there that the budget had not originally taken fully into account. The community center, there was an error in last year's budget, and this corrects it.
Excuse me, Bonnie, wasn't the animal control increase, I mean, you explained this to me in a conversation we had earlier, something about the accounting for their on-call time.
That is actually one of the issues with it. They get paid for on-call hours as well. There's some MAPS increases there in there as well, but they get paid for being on call, and then if they're called out to go and help with animals that are found, they get paid for call time as well. So not all of that is budgeted at the beginning of the fiscal year. We budget for what we anticipate, and it can waver one way or the other. Additionally, there was some leave involvement where one employee had to cover for another, so we saw some greater salary in that time too.
Any further questions for Bonnie? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to adopt the two budget ordinance amendments as provided.
Madam Mayor, motion to adopt the two budget ordinance amendments as presented to us.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Medlin. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Now. And next, now that you can hear me, is discussion of the water and sewer service for the proposed Charles Group development.
Yes. What you've got on your screens is a zoning map for the town of Oak Island. If you'll look at all of, well, there's a pointer. See how this thing works. See right in this area? All of that encompasses the development of the Charles. It's between 2,100 and 2,200 acres. The development in of itself is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,250 or 2,200 homes, commercial, retail, grocery stores, with a medical campus and other amenities. The initial portion of that we're talking to the county about providing water and sewer to, if I can get this, is right here around 211. They're carving out 5.5 acres into 3 parcels of land. What's necessitating that is their anchor tenant, and if Mr. Duffy would like to explain to you who and when, he shall. They have a move-in date or an occupancy date of these new structures of January 2016. It is not possible for the town of Oak Island to extend water and sewer to that in that time frame. It is, we've done some research, Mr. Foster, myself, David Kelly. We've all spoke with the county. We've met with them. We think at this time, we need to ask the county, and I have prepared a letter for Mr. Foster to send to Ms. Hardy as soon as we get the new parcel numbers, which I have seen the Mylar, or actually I've seen the copies of it. They've parcelized everything correctly for that 5.5. It meets our land use ordinances. There's no issues there. I should have the Mylar hopefully by tomorrow, and we'll have the new parcel number. So we are talking about one parcel of 3 acres, and then that's the only one we're talking about at this point right now that we're going to ask the county to provide water and sewer to. How you guys work out with the county, the rest of it is for a later conversation. But we need to do this. We need to get your support. I need to get you to direct Mr. Foster to send Ms. Hardy that letter so that we'll get an anchor tenant and we'll have a $750 million development start. That's the gist of it.
Madam Mayor, I might say something here. We had one of the county commissioners at the table with us, as well as Ms. Hardy, the Utilities Department from the county, our Utilities Department, and as Mr. Crook said himself, and myself, we met with them, and I think everybody at that table was the agreement. The best thing we could do for the county and for the town both is go ahead and let the county supply them with sewer service. And so that's why I think everybody's in agreement with the county level as well, too.
Okay. Any further questions from council? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the providing of water and sewer service for the Charles Group for the parcels noted by the county.
To ask
Is
them,
it?
actually.
Pardon?
It'd be to direct the town manager to send a letter requesting.
Oh, that's right.
Motion's in the packet.
Can't act for county, can we?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to instruct the town manager to write a letter to Ann Hardy, the county manager, requesting that the county provide utility service to the specific parcel of land allocated for their anchor tenant at the Charles.
Second by Councilor Weintraub, motion by Councilor Medlin. Any further discussion, please? If not, all those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Next is, and before we move on, Mr. Duffy, I would like everyone to note you're not confused. He is the new project manager for the preserve, and he is also one of the principals, the project manager for the Charles Group. And one of the partners. So I appreciate his investment in our community. Next is discussion of status regarding the West End erosion. Mr. Foster, please.
I think as this board knows and a lot of the public knows, we're having a little problem on the west end of Oak Island. I'm sure everybody, or at least I think a lot of people have been down to take a look at it, and this is an issue that I feel that the town needs to address sooner rather than later. In looking at this, we looked at our initial meeting with Moffitt Nichols. This rose to the top, this particular project right here. Councilor Painter was there, and at the time Councilor Royal and myself, as well as our consultants. And everybody felt like that this was something that could be done quicker than anything else that we could do on beach nourishment issues. And this is the implementation of Phase 1 of the Lower Lockwood Folly Habitat Restoration Development Plan. Let me see if I can move forward here a little bit. The purpose of that plan is for engineering a plan to improve water flow. This is the original plan. Ecologically restore the habitat in and around the Lower Lockwood Folly River, including the area of Galloway Flats and the eastern channel of the Lockwood Folly River. The county commissioned Coastal Science and Engineering, a coastal engineering company, in 2009, which I'll go into the history in just a minute, to conduct a study to improve ocean flow to the areas specifically outlined, and that would be to assist in the preservation of the dwindling clean shellfish waters in Brunswick County. 2, to improve flow to the estuarine areas on Oak Island for fish nurseries and nursery habitats. 4, restore the historic original channel of the river behind the existing Blue Water Point Marina to the ocean, and provide high-quality beach sand for beach renourishment. A little bit of the history. The history of this plan goes back quite a few years. Matter of fact, it goes back to my first term here as town manager. Back then, there was concern about the ecological health of the whole area around the Eastern Channel and Galloway Flats, inasmuch as the original channel goes from where Blue Water Point is now out to the Atlantic Ocean. The inlet was changed by the Corps of Engineers when the Intercoastal Waterway was built, and that's deteriorated the area around the Eastern Channel and Galloway Flats as far as flow of water is concerned. The United States Army Corps of Engineers started getting concerned about that in the 80s, and they did dye tests on flows to determine what kind of flow was going through and possibly doing something about it. So in the early 2000s, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers submitted an environmental request for funding that year for dredging the channel and bringing it back to some ecological stability. Money ran out, as it always does in beach nourishment, and so that plan came and went and failed. Well, then along came the county commissioners, and they commissioned the Coastal Science and Engineering Company in 2009, and Brunswick County was a primary sponsor of that. This was something that was done through what was known as the Southeast Brunswick Conservancy, bringing this to their attention. And so they have filed, the county had the consultant file an application with the North Carolina Division of Water Resources and for funding. And about that time, money ran out again, and so it was a funding issue that stopped at that time. Now, since then, thanks to our Senator Bill Rabon and others, there is a new funding mechanism in place to help fund some of these projects, and it's the establishment of a new fund source by the General Assembly for water-related dredging-type projects, and that's being funded through boat registration fees and through sale of marine gasoline, which is generating quite a bit of, or not quite a bit, but enough money to get it back on track. The major goals of this project, of course, is to coordinate with the Army Corps of Engineers and Diener State Department, in Brunswick County and Holden Beach to put together some kind of plan that's going to help improve water quality in that whole area. So helping to improve water quality, maintain navigational channels, placement of beach quality sand on adjacent Oak Island Beach, integration of existing plans into a comprehensive plan, which we have Moffitt Nichols working on, maintain channel flow and identify navigational improvement opportunities and funding sources for the projects. People think a lot that there's sand all over out in the ocean. Well, that's not exactly the case. What you see here in front of you is a map where these some bar areas, in other words, bar areas is where the sand comes from to place on the beach for beach renourishment. And there's 4 or 5 of these areas that they've identified in the past. Most notably the Yellow Banks. There's 2 areas off of the western end of Oak Island. Jaybird Shoals, which is, I'm sure as Councilor Painter knows, has been a bone of contention for various reasons. And then there's Frying Pan Shoals that we have that we could borrow sand from for that. However, the rest of these would require probably an environmental impact statement, which would take years to get through. In my experience, it takes about 5 to 10 years, depending on various circumstances, to get them approved through the Army Corps of Engineers and through the Division of Coastal Management. So that leaves the Eastern Channel as a primary source that we could use to place sand on the western end of the island to prevent any further damage and erosion. So this would be a good source for sand from that. The overview of the project looks like this. The line on the backside, this is the western end of Oak Island, and the line on the backside is this yellow line is sand that can be used that we've identified that can be used preliminarily for renourishment on the beach. The red line, which is connected to that, is soil samples indicate that it's not suitable for the beach, and it would be deposited. If you'll notice, let's see if I can have that laser pointer. But up in the top corner of Sheep Island, you'll see there's a bald spot. Oh, there it is. It's right up in here, a bald spot that this disposal area could be used to get rid of that. That's operated by the Corps of Engineers, and that would take care of that red unsuitable soil or sand. The area at the bottom right from here over to here is the area that would be renourished with the sand from back here in the sound. And that is about 1.25 miles long. Extends from about where 69th Place West is right here to about where 45th, 48th Street is right over here. And what that would do is about, they say it's about 180,000, but I think closer to 200,000 cubic yards of sand. And that would provide sand for 25 to 30 cubic feet per linear foot. And so that's generally how the project would look. Whoops. So what's the urgency of this project? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's called erosion. This is what we're looking at. It's not pretty. There's a lot of other towns on the coast that have experienced this in the past, that beach nourishment has come back and have saved these type of properties from falling in. We have several pictures here. This is down at the point. You'll notice the ladder up there on the dune to get down. These are some of the steps that have been replaced since then. Some of these houses have gotten permission from the state. And I think that John Michaud's helped out a good bit on this down there, as well as Donna Coleman, and working with these property owners and being able to get sandbags or get approval for sandbags. By the way, sandbags can be approved by the state once the erosion or the escarpment gets within 20 feet of the pilings. So that's how close they are. They are within 20 feet of several of the houses down there right now. And some of these steps have already been replaced. Preliminary placement area, as I mentioned earlier, is from 42nd to 48th Place West down to the inlet terminating at 66th, 69th Street. The center of the project will be at 57th Place West, which is the Blue Water Point Marina. 25, 30 cubic feet per foot would be placed in those areas. And there is a permanent pipe that's been placed right at the marina that goes under the road there, where they can pump from the sound back onto the beach. This permanent pipe's been put in. Toolbox of financing options for the project. We're looking for state funding for a significant portion. Accommodations tax out of the beach fund that we have. The possibility of municipal, depending on what the board's desire is, municipal service districts, which would be assessing the benefited property owners on the ocean front and the sound side for some type of an assessment to help pay for the benefit that they receive from the project. No ad valorem taxes are planned to be used. Cost for the project is approximately $3.5 million, depending on the final figure from Moffitt and Nickel. The state request that we're putting in for this $3 million is $1.5 million. County request is $500,000, and the town's portion would be $1.5 million, which would come again out of the beach fund. The Eastern Channel project, breaking the cost down, design, permitting, construction, observation, engineering cost is $274,925. Construction costs for mobilization, demobilization, total construction cost $2.8 million, and we have a contingency that they felt that we needed to put in for $462,000 roughly, and the total project cost would be $3,545,364. And that's it. Do I have any questions?
Questions from council, please. I think we saw this before when you did the presentation with Moffitt and Nichol.
Have you looked at what creating a municipal service district would look like?
We've looked at it preliminarily, Councilor Mellon. We're looking at about 60 properties, at least just what I've determined is just approximately 60. We'd have to do a review on that just to make sure on the sound side, and I think it was like 106 on the oceanfront side. But I'm going to have to go back and actually count. I was just doing some rough estimates based on the mileage at 1.25 miles divided by 50-foot lots. This is real rough, but it would give us some idea of what we would have. The other thing that would help make this project less expensive is if we can get a dredging company doing work here in the area, sort of like Southwind or some of these other dredging companies. If they don't have to pay as much for mob and demob costs to get here, that's a tremendous expense. And this project is $750,000. Then that would cut down the cost of this project as well too. Timeline-wise, we're going to be submitting a grant application before July 1st. Myself and Moffitt and Nichols have been working on that. We would probably get approved sometime during this cycle if we can get approved. There's a lot of requests out there for this type of work to be done. If we do get approved and we do come up with the rest of the funding for the project, probably the earliest we could get started at most optimistic mode is probably November of this year, November, December. And of course, the environmental window runs from November through the end of March. So we'd have to do the work during that period of time. So that's what kind of timeline we're kind of looking at. But here again, there's a lot of variables in that, and we may not get it done this year, but that's just fast track getting it through. Another big issue is the permitting, and I don't know, we've been in conversation with Doug Huggett at the state, and he feels like that we may be able to get this through, without a whole lot of follow-up, but who knows, they may or may not. And I know Senator Rabin has offered his help in that area as well too, so that should be beneficial.
If this gets approved, and a big if, but and then it's ultimately constructed, would that qualify it to be an engineered beach?
An engineered beach, that portion would probably be qualified as an engineered beach, yes, ma'am. As long as, now here's the other caveat to that, but we have to have a 30-year plan to go along with it to maintain it, which we required probably the municipal service district, these people that get benefits out of the construction job to help pay for an ongoing maintenance type of project. This isn't a one-time deal. This is something that's probably going to have to be taken care of every 4 or 5 years in order to maintain it the way it should be maintained.
Well, that 30-year plan, that's part of what Moffitt Nichols is going to bring.
That's correct. That's correct. And this is just one part of the total plan, too.
We're getting in pretty dire straits down there now. We've got some real problems down there now. And I know you said the state has worked with some of those folks with doing some sandbags. Is there anything we can do legally, like pushing some sand?
Well, pushing sand, it's not really presented itself as a positive move. It makes people feel good when you push that sand up to the dune. But the problem is once you lower the profile of the beach, and it's been my experience of this at both at Topsail and North Topsail, the water rushes in faster at a higher velocity and it eats that sand out very quickly, almost like melted sugar. I think Mr. Michaud pushed, when was that, John? a couple months ago, and it didn't last one day. So it's just that bad. As far as project, one of the things, the three basic parts of any project of this nature are getting the permits to be able to do it is a huge hurdle. Coming up with the money that you need to do one of these projects. Then lastly, as Brian knows, is working to get the right to enter affidavits that we need in order to be able to work on potential private property. So if you get those three areas down, you can get your project done.
They're easements, actually.
Pardon me?
I would advise to get easements as opposed to right of entries. That's what they did at North, we got
regular easements at North Topsail.
Because every time you go back to renourish or to maintain it, you don't want to have to get another right of entry. Ownership could have changed hands, that kind of thing. So the long haul, it's better to get easements, and that's a legal process. We had a very good voluntary response at North Topsail Beach, but not everybody volunteered. So you have to commence a condemnation process to get an easement.
How many did you end up having? I can't remember.
26 were in active litigation.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that was for
that was for a 2.5 mile project, though.
But we had 5 times that voluntarily. It just depends on how many people are active at that particular property. One of our biggest problems where the owners were absentee owners. Some of the property was so far in the water they just didn't even consider it their property anymore, but it was still their property of record, so on and so forth. I think Steve's point is that is an issue we'd have to act on sooner rather than later if that's the direction the council wants to go. Right?
Thank you. And one last thing is you have a resolution there in front of you, and we're going to need to have that resolution passed in order to proceed with the application.
With that being said, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the resolution requesting for financing assistance.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the resolution request for financial assistance for beach erosion abatement and renourishment, the funding of the Phase 1 of the Lower Lockwood Folly Habitat Restoration Project as presented to us this evening.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilor Weinkoff spoke first.
Fine.
All those in favor, please. It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work on getting that review done of that. Let's see. Next, Chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session, please. And we have the specific paragraph in our package.
Madam Mayor,
Please.
I move that we go into closed session to consult with the town attorney on potential litigation and specific personnel pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A, 3, and 6.
Have a motion. We have a second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilor Kaiser. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. If everyone excuses for a few minutes, please.
It's their cards.
Oh,
Not yet.
call the meeting back to order. Council took no action during closed session. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
Let us adjourn.
Motion by Councilor Kaiser, second by Councilor Scott. All those in favor, please. Thank you. It is unanimous.